I was working at the Kellogg Company in Battle Creek, Michigan, in the advertising department. So one day, a former employee of Kellogg Company showed up of a committee set up to encourage women to join the service. And I was really interested. I thought, this sounds like a really exciting thing to do, be part of the service, part of serving one's country while having a really good time. So what service would you prefer? And I said, oh, I think the Navy, because I really like the uniforms and I might as well look good while I'm in the service. So anyhow, the Navy does have the best looking uniforms, I still think, 70 years later. So I applied for that in July of '52 with an interview in Chicago and a physical. And then probably by December, I got a notice in November that I had been accepted. So I went to Chicago again in December. I was sworn in, received my commission, and off to Newport, Rhode Island for 4 months of familiarization with what is the Navy. So, and what would the jobs be, and learning all about the service, just an indoctrination. So after that, then I received my orders, and they were sent me to the Naval Photographic Center at Anacostia Air Station in DC. So I was there for a couple of years writing film scripts, and they thought, because I'd worked in advertising departments, I must have a great deal of talent as far as writing goes. So they found out I didn't have all that much, but I did develop it, and I made a career of it after I got out of the service. But anyway, I did learn to write movie scripts. We did training films for the sailors and officers in their various schools to learn to do training that could be transferred to a film that you didn't actually need on-site instruction for. So we did a lot of that. We did public information films that went on TV explaining NATO and the annual report of the Navy, what the Navy had accomplished that year. It was fun working, very interesting, creative people. I joined the Navy, we were the Waves, women recruited for volunteer emergency service. Since that time, women have become an integral part of the Navy. The Waves do not exist anymore. Women during World War II were recruited specifically, I think, to free up a man to go and fight at the front. Plus, women were recruited to do special functions like breaking codes, areas of the services that expanded directly as a result of, enormously as a result of the war. The code-breaking function, for instance. So that was a natural for women, who did a lot of that for the Navy and the Army. So, but by the time I was in, we were still being recruited. We were being recruited more for our talents or to fill a regular billet in the service, rather than replace a man to fight. And I think that's still the way it is today. Women are just part of, they fly airplanes and they go to sea, they command ships. When I was in the Navy, we didn't even set foot on the ship, except the nurses were in the hospital ships, but women did not serve on ships, period.
The flag, as a symbol of the country we serve, gets treated with due ceremony in the Navy.
I was at the photo center for almost 2.5 years, something like that. Then I had been accepted in the regular Navy, and I was up for a change in orders, so I requested San Francisco as my next duty station, and I got it. So I was assigned to what was called then, this is Old Navy, Com 12, which is Commandant, 12th Naval District. At the time, there were 3 naval districts up and down the West Coast. So I was on the Admiral's staff for a couple of years in personnel. I worked for a captain administering all the personnel of the 12th Naval District, looking out for in and out, you know. It was a big training center at Treasure Island for new recruits, and just the management of personnel as duty assignments within the district.
Trained men will probe carefully until they find the cause of the breakdown, then just as carefully set about the delicate job of repair. This is the Navy way.
The thing about the Navy that I experienced I hadn't realized before is the sense of comradeship, supportive the reliance on your shipmate. I was never in a situation where my life was threatened, but there were plenty of people around me whose lives had been threatened, and they shared it with us, their sea stories. World War II was barely over. Korean War veterans were coming back. They had stories to tell. And I realized that being in the service is a community. It's a separate world. It's almost like Shell Point. My husband and I both said it's like being on a ship. You know, we all rely on each other. We're close-knit. We care about our neighbors, and the sailors on the ship care about each other. They look out for each other. You're not alone. It's a coordinated thing. So I think I think every service person feels that sort of thing. I think some veterans, when they come home from the war, a war like the Iraq War now, Iraq warring or Afghanistan or wherever, they're happy to be home, but they may miss the closeness or the sharing. Every day you're facing danger, you're facing a problem, and it's a community of its own.
The rescue swimmer goes over the side only when granted permission by the commanding officer.
My career was exactly what I expected when I joined. It was wonderful. It was exciting. I met some people who were friends for years and years. I felt that I was doing something worthwhile. Making movies doesn't sound like a career choice for a naval officer, but we were fulfilling a function that the Navy needed done, which was teaching people skills to make them better sailors, better officers. We were letting the public know what we were doing so that they would support us emotionally and financially and enthusiastically. And then the work that I did at Comp 12 was more of a routine nature, the administration of the Navy, but it's essential. Keep the ships going. You've got to have people on shore, do this, do that, give the training, new people enlisted. You know, I don't want to sound corny. Everybody has, should have, and I think most people do, a love of country in the center of their hearts. Some people can express it and others can't. And it's hard to say. It's rewarding. I didn't join the service because I specifically wanted to serve my country. It wasn't like wartime and you run off and you want to fight. I saw it as a career choice. But, and as I said earlier, part of being in the service is the familial experience that we're all part of a large family. We rely on each other, and I think that's carried over to my life, that you're not alone, that being solitary is not the way of the world, and it gets your heart, you know. The sea, there's something about the sea, there's something about the command structure, there's something about the formality, the discipline, the camaraderie. It's a great life.
That indeed is the Navy way.